Hey everybody, it's TR. I'm back with another RV how-to video, and on today's video, no work, just talk. And we're going to talk about when is it time to get the pros to do your work. So as a lifelong DIYer, I have done most of my own service on my vehicles for years, for the reason I want to try to save some money. You might note I'm wearing my Freightliner hat today. I only wear my Freightliner hat when I'm getting service done. And what's driving this video today is I'm sitting out here at the Warner Truck Center just off of I-84 in Jerome, Idaho. And I've actually been to this location before because I used to live about 30 minutes from here. And I'm just going to have them do some service on Rusty the RV today. Rusty is a Newmar Dutch Star, 2004. 4010 is the floor plan. And I have the Cat 3126E engine, which actually failed on me 2 years ago. I broke a valve and had to have a crate engine put in, which was a complete rebuild engine. That was nice because I got the 3-year, 100,000-mile warranty, but you know, it was expensive. It wasn't cheap, I'll tell you that. It was close to $30,000 when everything was said and done. In the time I was sitting here yesterday, and I got here probably, 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, something like that, I saw 2 RVs come in on the hook. 2 RVs being towed in because they had broken down out on the road somewhere. I spoke to the one fellow because he has a Newmar Ventana. He's sitting right over here. And he was probably 90 miles south of here and had a fuel leak and couldn't get it fixed. He tried to fix it himself. And so he got towed in, and I chatted with him for a little bit last night. When it's a major system, you probably are going to end up having to go to the pros, to the truck shop, to get your service done. Now, why do I come to a truck shop versus going to an RV dealer? Well, first off, this truck shop knows Freightliner gear. They have Freightliner parts. They have the direct line to get Freightliner parts. And I tend to use OEM or original parts on my rigs like this as much as I possibly can where it makes sense. And let's talk about, what I'm going to have done. I'm going to have the oil change, oil filter, and fuel filter. I changed the air filter myself about 2 weeks ago while I was at my dad's. I'm going to have the transmission serviced. I'm going to put synthetic oil in it. This will be my second cycle of synthetic oil change in the transmission. So now I can go to a different maintenance cycle on it. I took Camp Freightliner, which is the Freightliner authorized training system for motor coach owners, motorhome owners. This class I took was done at the Newmar Country Club International Rally in Pueblo, Colorado in 2016. And a fellow named Mike Cody, who came out from Gaffney, South Carolina, where the XC chassis are manufactured, where the motorhome chassis are manufactured, is a training guy. And man, he is so good. And he'll put together this book. Well, he made this book specifically for my coach. So when you register for the class, they get the VIN, the vehicle identification number for your coach. He puts together this book with information specific to your chassis. It's an amazing thing. It was a 2-day class, cost me $179. It was definitely worth the money. In addition to the engine service and the transmission service, I'm having new shocks put on. I'm also having the hydraulic system looked at. The hydraulic system on this coach runs the radiator fan. I have a side radiator set up, and so it has a hydraulically driven fan. It runs the power steering. There's a couple other systems that are hydraulically driven. And if you watch my channel, you may remember that I had a breakdown last October in Camp Verde, Arizona, where I blew one of those hydraulic hoses because it was rubbing on the frame. Well, that resulted in a tow for me because with no hydraulic pressure, I had no cooling and I had no power steering. And driving this 35,000-pound beast without power steering is pretty impossible. So that ended up in a tow. Well, when I was doing my pre-flight check yesterday, I popped the hood to check the oil and just, generally look at things, look at the serpentine belt and all that kind of stuff. And I noticed I had a little bit of an oil leak. And I also noticed that this big, huge hose that I'm showing you here looks pretty cracked and pretty tired. And so I'm going to have him go ahead and look at that as well. So back to my original question. When is it time to have the pros do the work? Now, straightforward, I have changed the oil in this. I've done the transmission service in this. It's not rocket science. The issue is, where do you get rid of 20 quarts of motor oil or 5 gallons of transmission fluid? Okay? Especially as a full-timer, I live on the road full-time. I'm not packing around an oil pan big enough to capture that much oil because it's just space. And yeah, a lot of the auto parts store, O'Reilly's, what's the other one? AutoZone. They take waste oil. You know, they'll recycle waste oil for you. But you still got the hassle of packing around 5 or 10 gallons of waste oil, getting it to the store, having containers to put it in. To me, it was just not practical. Here at Warner Truck Center, it's only going to be about $250 to get the engine service. That's the oil filter and a fuel filter. That's actually a little bit cheaper than Speedco. Speedco is another one you'll see along the interstate. They specialize in quick change. You know, they're like the Jiffy Lube, but for trucks and or RVs, and they service RVs. And I've had my oil changed at Speedco before, and they do a fine job. And when everything's said and done, by the time you get out of there, you know, it's like $325 or maybe a little bit more just for the oil filter, chassis lube, you know, that kind of stuff. So it is absolutely practical to be able to do your own if you've got the facilities. If you still have a sticks and bricks place, you know, where you can store oil until you can get it to the recycler or whatever, then it probably will be just fine to do your own oil and filters and stuff like that. When it comes down to shocks, that's probably something else I could have done myself, but I just don't have the tools. You know, you really are looking at having to have some kind of impact wrench, and yeah, they make electric impact wrenches and all that. But again, that's just stuff, you have it, you use it how often, okay? And when you live full-time in your RV, space is at a premium, so you got to keep in mind, you know, packing around another tool is another, you know, bit of space. It's also another 20 pounds that you're packing around, that you're paying the fuel to haul around, and so on and so forth. And I suspect that if you sat down and did the math on it, you're going to find out pretty quick that instead of hauling around one tool to do a specialty job, it's probably just as easy to go and pay somebody else to do it. The fact of the matter is, I get a lot of comfort and good feeling coming to a professional service shop like this because they are Freightliner certified. They have certified technicians. They do this all the time. They make very few mistakes, and their labor is warranted. So if there's a problem, you know, they're going to stand behind their work. And so I think that's another plus to having a professional service shop do your service like this. As a side note, before I forget, it always pays to shop around, okay? Because the shop rates are going to be different anywhere you go. And some shops don't like to work on RVs because, you know, it's a little bit more difficult than being able to just tip the hood forward on a truck and have complete and full access to the motor. So it's going to cost a little bit more probably to have RVs worked on just because of the limited amount of space that you can get into the engine and work on it. The last thing is like on this hydraulic system that I'm going to have looked at, I think it's best to just have the pros do that. This is such a critical system. It runs some really critical parts of your RV. But I think it makes better sense to have somebody that works on this equipment do it. I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to have a hose replaced. And they probably can make the hose here, and if not, I'm in a big enough area that there's going to be a shop in town that's going to be able to hopefully make this hose. If not, that's fine, I'll wait a day. I'm not in any hurry to get anywhere. The thing about coming to these truck shops is a couple things that are good, and there's some things that aren't so good. In this particular case, you know, I tried to schedule this appointment. They typically don't schedule these appointments. Well, they will, but they won't. You know, they can expect you to be here on Monday like it is today. I checked in first thing this morning. I was actually here last night, as I mentioned earlier. But you're still going to be waiting in line. That's just the nature of the beast. These shops are first come, first served. The Freightliner shops like this one, if you have a Freightliner chassis and you don't know this, and Spartan does the same thing, I believe, is that when you first hit the shop, they like to have you assessed and with an estimate on what the repairs are going to be within 2 hours. And that's Freightliner's thing, right? If a truck pulls in here that's broken down, or an RV, it doesn't matter. They get somebody out to look at it right away, get a sense for what's going on with it, so that they can keep you updated. I really like that about Freightliner. I've stopped at Freightliner a couple times with some other issues. Man, they're Johnny on the spot. They come out, they take a look at your rig, They go back in, they figure out what it's going to take to fix it, and they come to you and say, okay, here's what it's going to take, here's what you need, here's what it's going to take time-wise, and so on and so forth. And so I think that, again, you're working with a professional repair organization, and these guys know their stuff, and so I feel confident that they're going to get you the right answer. They don't schedule. It's the nature of the business. A lot of the Freightliner dealers, this is starting to sound like a Freightliner commercial, it's not supposed to be, but a lot of the Freightliner dealers have a service they call Oasis service, and it's specifically geared for the RVer. And so what it is you pull in and they'll have 3 or 4 spots that have hookups. You might not have a dump station, but you would have power and water. Like the Freightliner dealer in Tucson, who I've been to for service, of course, since I winter down there, they are an Oasis shop, and so they actually have covered parking with hookups for the RV crowd. So when you're there and you're waiting for your service, you're more than welcome to stay in one of those spots free of charge. They never charge you for it. When you're working on your rig, of course, you're not going to be allowed to stay in it when it's inside the shop. However, they're not going to deny you access. Just go to the service manager and say, hey, listen, I need my laptop, I need my book, I need whatever, you know. They'll let you walk out, get in the rig, get the stuff that you need, and you know they're really very practical about all of it. You know, I mean, you know, they don't want you hanging around bothering the mechanics, because the mechanics got work to do. But you know, a quick trip in and out to get something in your RV is perfectly fine. Plus, a lot of the big service centers like this, like the Freightliner service centers or the Spartan, they have a very comfortable, convenient, nice driver's lounge, usually with free Wi-Fi. They'll have a big TV, big comfy chairs, that kind of stuff. And you know, so you're not going to be put out too badly, depending upon the nature of the beast. You know, depending upon what your issue is. To answer that question, when is it time to get the pros to do the work? The first answer is when you're not comfortable doing it yourself. You may not be a DIYer. You might not have the tools to do the work correctly. Large sockets and various things like that. Impact wrenches that it takes to get these high torque bolts off. Second, if it's a major system, have a pro do it. You're going to get out somewhere, you're going to be boondocking, you're going to be 150 miles from nowhere. Your fix is going to fail, and then you're going to be looking at a very expensive tow. And third, when you want that peace of mind that the work was done correctly, they handled everything correctly, there's certified technicians working on it, I think that all lends to a lot more peace of mind when you're rolling down the road. I'm going to take a pause here because I've kind of got through the end of this. I'll pick this up when I finish, when I check out from getting the service done, and I'll share with you the expenses. The oil change service, that's the lube the chassis, new oil filter, new fuel filter. By the way, it looks like they overcharged me for oil. They got 30 quarts here. There's no way this thing takes 30 quarts. I think it takes 20 maximum, but I think 19 is what it's supposed to take. So they overcharged me there. The filter seems about normal, but it was $256.67. Transmission service came out just perfect, no complaints so far. $286.77 to get the transmission service. That's with synthetic oil, which they used 5 gallons. The synthetic oil alone was $183.10. That's the most expensive part. That was $45 for the labor and $58 for the filters. It was $656 for shocks. And I can stomach that. That was about where I thought it should be. But for now, I think I'm going to wrap this video up. As always, if you like what you see, I appreciate those thumbs up. Those are really helpful. It lets me know you like the content and that I should continue to make more of this type of content. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and do all those social things. Check out my website for additional details on a lot of these projects that we're talking about. And as a reminder, apparently there's some changes coming for our YouTube around notifications. So hit that notification bell, if you will. That'll let you know that I have a new video out and I won't get lost in the shop. But for now, it's time to go. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Until we get together the next time for another RV how-to video. Peace.